Welcome to Stay Sparked. We are three longtime friends here to share inspiration with you, aim to light you up. I'm Betsy.
I'm Halcyon.
And I'm JANUS.
On today's episode, we talk about gossip and rumors.
What do we do and how do we respond when we find ourselves on the receiving end of gossip and rumors, or we find ourselves conversing about others?
How can we find a place of understanding, compassion, and forgiveness for others and for ourselves?
Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Stay Sparked. We like to start our broadcast with a little bit of gratitude sharing. Betsy, what are you feeling grateful for today?
Today, I am so grateful for the ocean. This is the time of year that it is warm enough to swim. I've been swimming every day and it's so cleansing, so fun. It brings out my inner child. It's just, it's so good. I'm so grateful for the big blue ocean.
Beautiful. How about you, JANUS?
Today, I am grateful for my friends. It's been, I've had a lot of friends reaching out to me to kind of out of the blue, a lot of questions, a lot of check-ins with friends. And so I've had a lot of really solid conversations of late, and it's been a good summer for that way so far. Still grateful for that.
Nice. And my gratitude is for my 5-year-old bio son's new language of emojis and the fun we've been having as he's been telling me jokes and giving me recipes that almost always end with the poop emoji, but it has been a blast to communicate in a new way with little Asher. Well, today our topic is going to be gossip and rumors. It is one of those places where even I have noticed that trying to lead the best life I can and be the best person I can, I fall into places where I sometimes spread gossip and rumors, and I have been the victim of gossip and rumors. And so we're going to get into that a little bit. I wanted to just start with a powerful experience that I had 24 years ago. I lived in a webcam house for 2 years where everything I said, everything I did was broadcast live and on the web. And people were like, oh my God, you showered on internet? You showered people? I'm like, yeah, but that's not what was embarrassing. What was embarrassing was realizing that gossip was the part of who I was and that I was saying things about people not in front of their face. And it became really obvious when you realize that anybody could be watching, that I was literally living in a glass house. And so this powerful awareness that one of the most embarrassing things I was doing was saying things about people when they weren't around. I remember reading a Oprah Winfrey story about how she was having a party and walked into people talking about someone who wasn't there. And she said, "Get that poison out of my house." I was like, oh man. Because I never thought about it that way. You know, it almost like you blow off steam, you know, there's something thrilling about it. And I'm curious if either of you have ever found yourself noticing yourself saying things and realizing that you are contributing to poison too.
So powerful. Thank you for that. Yeah, I got all kinds of sparks going just from your first share. It's just so fascinating how it's a human tendency to want to talk about people, whether it's about like the good things or not so good things. Like I notice that a lot of times that I'm hanging out with a friend, someone will be like, "Oh, how's so-and-so? What's going on with them? You know, I want to know the update." And people always want to know what's the update with all the people. And when it comes down to it, we don't really know. We don't always really know what's going on for people. There's just so many layers of complexity. And yes, absolutely. I have definitely found my place, myself in a place of sharing unconsciously about other people. And I have really tried to curb that over the years and really minimize my gossiping or spreading stories about people that I don't actually know are true. I prefer to stay out of conversations if it is about other people, unless, of course, it is in celebratory nature and gratitude for these people. Because what is the saying? It's like, what other people think is none of my business, and so, yeah, I agree with Oprah. Gossip is poison because we don't always really know what's going on, and it can really paint and taint our perceptions around certain people when we don't actually know the truth.
Yeah, it's one of those things that early on in my life, like it's when you're younger, it's, we're kind of, wired or programmed, not wired, but like programmed or taught to care about, things like celebrity and celebrity gossip. And it really kind of just appeals to our base nature, which until we get to a certain point of our evolution, it panders to us and we're almost like gleefully willing to like go there. But for me personally, it was probably like maybe late 20s or early 30s when it finally just, I would talk about people or be part of a conversation that people were talking about other people who were not there. And like you said, Betsy, unless it was like a celebratory kind of thing, then that's great. We're, you want to sing people's praises, that's fine. But just kind of talking about stuff negatively or talking about people negatively, or whatever, it would just start to leave an unsavory feeling with me. Like after the conversation, kind of almost like a poison, just like I would just kind of come away from it. Whether or not I participated in, it was just a party in it, like listening. I'm just like, no, it doesn't feel clean. Doesn't feel clean. So for me, just being like in the last 20 years, I'd say I just been like, I do as little of that as humanly possible, consciously possible.
See, I've sometimes had like the opposite experience where there's almost a feeling of bonding that I have with someone as we share something about somebody else, and there's this feeling of like, there's a connecting as I share a rumor, as this kind of closeness that happens. And fairly recently, somebody pointed out, they're like, every person that you speak to about someone who's not there, you are telling that person the kind of person that you are. And you are telling the person that that person you're talking to is comfortable talking about you behind your back, and it's like, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, like it in the same way that kind of complaining can be something that can bond, I think that gossiping can be something that can bond. But the more that I wrap it in that poison and in that it tells people who you are. It tells people how trustworthy you are. It tells people at what level can you be trusted. And really, that then becomes that's a part of your character that is very difficult to repair.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I definitely agree. I wonder, there's this phrase that I learned in one of the transformational trainings I did where they talk about the drama hook. And some people have this drama hook that is just like, oh yeah, like juicy. I just want to like get into the drama. Where's the drama? We are kind of programmed for that. Like I know my grandma used to love talking about people. That was like such entertainment. And my mom would tell me stories about how she would just like be yabbing on the phone about all these people and all about the gossip and everything. And it was like an addiction of sorts. And look at our culture, and a lot of the TV and the programs, it's like drama is really entertaining. And so people just like feed off of it. And recently I actually had someone talk to me about another person, and she was going on and 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 on about all these stories and about all her opinions and all about all her judgments. And she was just getting all worked up about it. And I just sat there and like nodded for a while and just kind of go like, oh, wow. Yep. Wow. You seem really passionate about that. And then I finally got to a point where I actually had to pause and ask her to like really tune in around how much of this do you know is actually true? And have you talked to that person that you're talking about these things? And it kind of like put a halt to the conversation. And I'm so glad I was able to kind of call that forward, because it started to redirect the conversation around, hey, let's actually pull back and go, wait, what's up underneath all of this? And why are you getting worked up? What's the trigger for you about this other person? And so oftentimes I think it's really important to, check back in with ourselves around where we get worked up around seeing what other people do.
Indeed. It's it's a really kind of a step back and look at what we consider to be entertainment. What are we entertained by? Because that's really a lot of what it is. Like to your point, there was like a TV show that was actually called Trauma. Like that was the name of the show. And it was like really highly rated for a while. A couple years back, I just saw a promo for it on YouTube. I was like, what? This is what entertainment is right now? And so, yeah, it's important to realize like that, especially like there's a human being on the side, that's the subject of this conversation. That's the subject of our gossip and these rumors. And it's really easy to kind of put somebody like not necessarily on a pedestal, but to kind of lower them a little bit. That allows us to like speak about them. And that is uncomfortably easy for so many of us, for all of us really, to do. And we have to be mindful and conscious of the conversations we're engaging in, the assessments we're making, because you don't really know somebody. Like I've just recently moved into a living situation, not recently, but it's happened before, where I moved into a situation with a friend, and you don't really know somebody until you move in with them. And it's like, I've been friends with this person for many years. It's great. And then move in is like, oh, okay, now this might not be so great because I literally did not know this person. Thought I did. See them out plenty of times, but you don't know somebody until you really get kind of into their life. And it's like, oh, wow, okay, so all that stuff I knew before, there may be true, but there's a whole other heap of stuff that is part of that changes the narrative, so to speak. And you don't know what that real narrative is until you actually spend some time with somebody, some real time with somebody.
Well, there's one thing that you touched on, Betsy, that I think is this stopping the flow of gossip tendency or speaking in a direction. It is very difficult. It takes a lot of courage to not fall into it. And I think one of the traits, as I age, that is one of the most critical things of being a person that lives according to their values and is a high integrity person, is you got to be able to have hard conversations. You got to be able to ask hard questions. You got to be able to say things that people don't want to hear. And stopping a gossip, saying like, is that actually, has anybody asked that person about that? Who is speaking to talk to that person about that? Or like, I'm uncomfortable with this conversation with them not here. Ooh, that is so strong. That is such a respectful, like I would just put someone like, thank you. That it was hard to have that conversation. I didn't have the guts in the moment to say, this feels weird, but if you can be that person, you're raising everybody.
Yes, I love that. That's a huge spark. How can we actually all be a stand for eradicating gossip? Because we know gossip is a low vibration. It's dense, it's icky, it's gross. If we want this world to be a better place, then it starts with the way that we all speak to each other and about each other. And I think that what you're speaking to also is that consciousness around gossiping, because maybe someone's just on this loop and they don't even really realize that they're gossiping. It can be same thing with complaining. Sometimes we get caught in a complaint and we don't even realize that it's just like this loop until someone goes, hey, do you realize like you've been complaining for the last 10 minutes? Like, oh gosh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. Oh my gosh. Like, it's like, hey, do you want to keep doing that? And then I think the other piece that's kind of sparking here too is around, how do we take responsibility for our own perspective about people, about the world, about the environment that we are living in? And how do we take responsibility for the beliefs that we hold? And where do we want to spend our precious, precious mental energy? This is one that I am working on incorporating in my daily life more regularly, is checking in, how much mental energy do I want to spend on this right now? Because I could notice sometimes there's a certain thing that all of a sudden I get fixated on. And then I'm like, wow, actually, do I really want to be thinking about this right now? How much energy do I want to pour into this belief that I hold around whatever it might be, or this person, or this angst, or this like whatever it is? It's like, oh, I get to take responsibility for my own mental energy, how I'm choosing to focus my thoughts, my perception of the world around me, the people in my life. And when I do that, I want to choose lightness and love, and I want to focus on things that are going to raise the vibration of my own personal being and then ripple out. I don't want to be sitting there dwelling on trauma.
or a Facebook comment or a meme. I'm so much better now, but I used to be like, well, this person's wrong. I need to make sure I let them know and everyone around them that. And I'm like, whoa, no. Then I have to go to that energy until this conversation, I decide I'm done with it. So skip it. One of the things I think is part of this. I believe, one of my philosophical, I think you either believe or you don't believe that people are doing the best they can. Are people doing the best they can with what they got? And so if you are listening to and participating in a conversation, talking about someone doing things, acting in a way, and you're judging it, if you pull back, you don't know all the information. You don't know what they're working with. And if I can remember that, and the same goes true with memes and comments, I'm like, oh, this person believes that the best way to protect their family is to blah, 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 blah. This person believes that the best way to be safe. This person believes that the best way is, and that there are not these just evil, well, there may be evil people, but most people, I think, are really doing the best they can. And if I see them doing something in a way that does not seem that way to me, then if I can honor them, I need to investigate why and what are they believing.
I'd love to chime in on that. That's powerful to be able to check in with, do I really see the people around me doing the best that they can, or do I not believe that? And that has to do with my perspective, right? Because if somebody is doing something that I consider as wrong and they should show up better, you're right, I don't actually know what they're working with. What is their mental capacities? What is their own personal trauma? What is their personal situation? What's their family life? What is their chemistry going on? I don't know. I might have high standards for the people in my life, and even people that aren't in my life. We'll talk, the political environment right now. I have some high standards, and it's like, they're not doing the best that they could. But it's like, well, what are they actually working with? And so how do we, once again, take responsibility for my own perspective around how I think people should be showing up.
Yeah. What you guys are touching on a little bit is, the whole concept of the 4 agreements. And one of those agreements is always do your best. And that is with the understanding that is going to change from day to day, that sometimes your best isn't going to look so great. And so I tend to default to people, like, I just assume that they're going to do their best, even though I will have opinions, like watching from over here, being like, wow, that's clearly not their best, because I've seen them do better than that. But again, that's going to fluctuate. That's going to change on a day-to-day basis. So something to offer people is grace, like always, grace and compassion, even when they find themselves in a negative thought loop. They're just cycling, complaining, or they've got something, there's always something with some people, and just kind of be like, all right, they are doing the best with what they have. Maybe they'll expand their tool set, who's to say, but that's their journey. And another one of we mentioned 4 agreements, but there is actually a 5th agreement that came out that goes, be skeptical, but learn how to listen, which means something along the line. It means a few different things, but it means don't just take somebody's perspective or words or story at face value. Listen and empathize, but also know that there's always more to the story. The older I've gotten, the more I've realized that everything is a shade of gray. There's very little that's black and white. There are some things that are black and white, but 99% of things really, they fall somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. And it's important to realize, no matter what we are hearing, and often even what we are saying, it's like we can pull back and be like, oh, what I think about this person, I'm certain with what I'm saying about this person, but I need to assume that I don't know the full story, that I don't have it. And so maybe that can cause us to pull back from even beginning that conversation then, because I don't know the whole story. So how about I not even start? And one thing just connected to that is, I heard something recently that was really that kind of stuck with me. And that is the idea that a sign of wisdom is the ability to let people be wrong about something. And that's whether you see that online or whether it's a story about something, whether it's a story about you. It's like when something gets back to you that you've heard, like, oh, when Betsy, if you were to hear like, oh, but Betsy was like this and that, and then you know that that's incorrect. I'll speak for myself, being the recipient of that, knowing that that's incorrect and being like, I could make an effort to fix that, quote unquote. But it's like, I'm also fine with letting people be wrong about that. That's what they want to do. If they don't have the impetus or the wherewithal, the desire to get a full story, then it's not necessarily my responsibility to make sure that they have the story. If they don't want to hear, if you wanted to hear it, you would ask. So people can be wrong about things. I've applied that online deeply. I just read a comment and like, that's whatever. That's fine. That's your truth.
I've found that I trust that people are telling me their truth, but I am very suspect of everyone's sources. In the same way I am of mine. Like, I know that I am the results of all the things I've read, all the things I've been told, and so that becomes my truth. But those things are changing all the time, and so someone else, I always believe that people are telling me and the best that they can, but that doesn't mean I believe them. It means that it's the truth is what is the result of what we believe. The other thing is that I have had definitely, occasionally I will get an email from someone or a comment, where someone will just pile on some accusation of something about me. And it's super jarring, to hear that I'm rude or stuck up or insensitive or treat people badly in some way. And I really don't see myself that way. I really try not to be that way. And so sometimes I will always say, I would love to understand how this perception came to be. And what I try to do is what a Byron Katie thing, where, whenever you get accused of anything, say, a part of me is that, yes, I could see how I can be selfish. I can see how the part of me is insensitive. A part of me does mistreat people. And so from that place of like truly listening, I want to defend myself, but like, help me understand how I am being seen this way in the world. Help me see how my actions are being perceived this way. And there have been times when I've been shown things where I've made mistakes and I would like to do different. And there's been times when, as I investigate and go deeper, I go, I think I've been misunderstood and misquoted and missed those things, but it does me no good to get defensive and fight it, because the truth is sometimes I am all of those things.
So powerful, Halcyon. I feel my whole system just like, it's so humbling to take responsibility, right? To just really receive that reflection that might be coming at you, even if it's so uncomfortable, and go like, oh, wow, I'm being perceived in this way. How can I actually receive that and look at myself and really check in with how can I adjust my ways of being in order to show up in a better way? And there is the tendency to want to defend or be righteous internally and be like, well, whatever, I'm just gonna keep being me, and people are just gonna have to deal with the way that I am, and they can make up whatever, like that. That's a frequency of inner dialogue, right? And then that radiates outward. And so what I felt from just witnessing you and feeling you, and when you even said that you put your hand on your heart, and I felt this softening and this humility, this like, a breath. It's really powerful. So thank you for that.
It's hard to step out of the argument that we've made the case in ourselves, because we are doing the best we can with what we've got at all times. I believe that. That being said, there are times when in the moment, the best that I could do was not as kind as I would have liked to have been, you know. And I got to forgive myself. And then I think that process helps you to forgive others. And when you fall into these traps of gossip and stuff, you go, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure, you know, I too have misstepped. I too have been insensitive or whatever those things are. So maybe if I understood their story better, it'll help me. I mean, it's always about forgiving yourself, forgiving others, forgiving yourself, forgiving others. I think that's how we get through these divisive patterns of gossip and speaking ill of people.
Yeah, and paying attention to the reflections.
Yeah.
Right? Because if this is a holographic universe, we're looking in the mirror all the time. So how are these perceptions that I hold about other people a reflection of my own consciousness? And how can I actually take a pause from the gossip? How can we actually go, like, wait a second, hey, what is this person's experience that I'm witnessing showing me about myself? Where can I find greater insight about myself and about the way that I view the world? How can I show up in a better way? If someone's struggling, especially, do I want to just keep holding them? You know, I had this experience recently where it was like someone came to me and was like, this person, da-da-da-da-da, perceptions about what they thought was happening. And I feel like it could have been very easy for me to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that. Oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Da-da-da-da-da. And it was like, hey, you know, have you actually talked to them? It's like, that sounds like they might be struggling. Because, you know, when a lot of times if people are struggling, that's when we're not able to show up in our best way. You know, like you're talking about, we're doing the best that we can. And sometimes the best that we can do is only to a certain point because there's a deeper struggle underneath it. You know, and survival, like living in survival, for example, which unfortunately a lot of people have to navigate through. Survival of like just trying to make ends meet, just trying to make sure they get through the day, you know? And so to be able to be this hero or this like showing up in the highest and best way, it's very difficult. And so how do we, as other people that are in a community or in other places, how do we show up for the people that are struggling? Do we want to hold them down? Like, oh, that guy's, it looks like he's in the mud. I'm just going to sit there and stare at him and judge him for being in the mud. Maybe kick him too. And it's like, no, that is not helpful. How can we actually like take a pause out of our own life and maybe extend a hand or a stick and be like, hey, maybe this might help you kind of come out of the mud a little bit because I know you and I you know, see you struggling.
Reminds me of a quick story. I was in an ayahuasca session once, and this woman from the Caribbean really got under the power of the medicine and just made a whoa, you know, the whole bit, like turned into a showstopper. Like you could not pay attention to her when she was in it, and very distracting. But anyway, she got through it. Following ceremony, I see her walk, like a month later, I see her walk into the new one, and I'm immediately like, oh gosh, this lady, here we go. And as the ceremony unfolded, she got in the whole bit, and I'm sitting there all judgy, of course. And I hear the medicine speak to me. It's like, instead of sitting here in judgment, how about you send her some love? Try that. And I was like, oh, thank you. So I immediately just kind of shifted my focus on directly at her and just felt my heart open and just said it, and she immediately stopped. And I just kept doing that, and she she's maybe 6-7 people away from me. She started just crying, you know, saying thank you. And I was just, it was the easiest thing for me to do, but I was so like, oh, I had this preconceived idea. It's all I had to do was just send her some, do less. That's, you know, that's a saying that I've kind of cultivated of late. Just do less. You don't have to do so much. It takes effort to wag the finger at somebody. It takes effort to look upon somebody with judgment or to think you've got everything figured out. Do less. Do what comes naturally to you. It's the easiest thing in the world to just send somebody some love. We don't have to about this. And even if we were to hear this about us, we can let that go and send the people who are saying these things, send them some love in return. Like, wow, I didn't like what that person said about me, but I'm going to love that person. Send them some love. They can do with it what they will.
So powerful, right? Because it's like if we know the power of prayer, the power of our thoughts, sending love to someone is what happens when we're sending judgment to someone. We can feel it. You can feel it when somebody is sitting there looking at you and criticizing you, right? Judging you and negatively thinking about you. It's psychic connections. And so once again, keep coming back home to this. How can I take responsibility for my own thoughts? How can I take responsibility to my own part in this collective field that we're all participating in, right? It is so powerful to be able to keep coming back to that recognition that my gossip, my spreading of rumors is actually contributing to the problems that might be here. How can we actually come back to love? How can we come back to well wishes? How can we come back to a more loving perspective about the people in our lives, even if we don't agree with the way that they're acting, right? And also take personal responsibility around how we're choosing to engage in these kinds of conversations or even just relationships.
One of the things that I use to help my mind find compassion for people that are doing things that I don't like is imagining them as a child or as an old pet, and when an old pet pees on the rug, when a child does something, like, they're doing the best they can. And so you have a choice of trying to understand their limitations, or just be angry at them for what they are. And you could say, yeah, well, that person's not a child. That person's not a pet. Like, sometimes we are. Sometimes the best I can do is acting in my toddler space. And I am whiny and I am selfish and I am projecting and doing all those negative things. And so if I know that sometimes I am acting from that super low place, I can try to find compassion for others when they are in their low place as well.
So powerful. Well, I love this conversation, you guys, and I feel like we are getting to a point where we can start to wrap it up with some closing sparks. So I'd love to actually start us off with a closing spark.
Hit it.
The closing spark here is really something that you touched on, Halcyon, and I think this kind of came from the beginning of the conversation, just around like, how do we have that courageous confidence in a conversation to put gossip at a halt? How do we pause a conversation and be like Oprah and say, I'm not okay with having this conversation. This conversation about this other person is really making me feel uncomfortable, and I'd like to stop right now. I think that there's something really powerful about that, and I feel like that's going to be with me to really keep coming back to that. So thank you for that spark and reminder.
Yeah. My closing spark is something that I witnessed recently in a community where there was some problematic members. And it's something that I've gone through in the past, where there's people who are acting in a way or showing traits that are detracting from the community. And in the past, my thought has always been, well, they need to be removed to protect, the family. And someone recently, a leader said, there's no such thing as outside the circle. That we are all connected. And if you expel and you kick out, that person is still a part of the environment, is still a part of the ecosystem that you are in, and that it is short-sighted to think that you can just, remove someone. And so part of this, whether when you're vilifying them through gossip, whether you're excluding them from the group of people that you consider to be worthy of your time, and everybody is worthy of either forgiveness or time spent in understanding them better. And that's a really hard level to attain, to seek for, but it's something that I'm pushing myself to try to do.
Well said. Well said. So that reminds me of a quote that I just really love. And I keep seeing it frequently. It's interesting, but you know, if the question is, how are we supposed to treat others? The answer is there are no others. It's we are the same. We are individual expressions of the same thing. We are all walking each other home, so to speak. So yeah, treat each other, treat each other how we would like to be treated. How would it feel to know that people out there talking about you and something that they don't really know about? Great. So I'm not going to participate in it on the other side. And also reminds me of the saying, that everything we should say, everything that comes out of our mouth should pass through 3 gates. The gates of truth, gates of kindness, and gate of necessity. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If it is, by all means, let it fly, speak away. Otherwise, maybe hold on to it, and maybe or find another way to phrase it. So that and things like rumors, gossip, innuendos, just uninformed opinions don't necessarily need to be shared out in the world. You're not adding anything to the world, frankly. So,
and stay curious. I feel like that's a beautiful way to be able to transmute, right? Because if we hear a rumor, then rather than just subscribing to it and just getting on that train, what about getting a little more curious around, well, is this true? Well, maybe I can do some of my own personal research and check in a little bit more fully and really go down that beautiful path of discovery for yourself and check in with each other.
Yeah, we all deserve understanding, as you said, Halcyon. And we deserve to be understood, and people deserve to be understood by us.
Beautiful.
I wanted to just say thank you to the two of you for your courage and your clarity. Within our dynamic and our friendship and our community, we are dealing with aspects of communication and gossip and judgment. And it's really beautiful to witness the courage that the two of you have shown with each other. And I wish for that to be inspiring to everyone. And I hope that we can all three continue to try to show up, speak our truth, and be available to continue to illuminate and forgive.
Yes, thank you, Halcyon. Really grateful for you guys too. And thank you for listening out there. I'll always appreciate our listeners sharing with us what you're receiving out of these conversations. So grateful for your feedback and thoughts and your reviews on Apple Podcasts. Super grateful for you guys. I'm always open to receive topic requests as well if anyone is inspired to share. And also just a little seed that we're going to be planting for some future guests that we're going to be having on. We're super excited. So stay tuned for some of our upcoming episodes that we'll be interviewing some more amazing souls to stay sparked.
Is it Oprah? Please say it's Oprah.
I'm working on it.
A hint for future listeners: the sparks are going to be flying.
That's true. Yep. Absolutely. So before we close it out with an affirmation, just a little pathway to find more of our work in the world. So you can find me poweraffirmation.com as well as finklehoo.com. Find me on the socials, BETSY FINKLEHOO on Instagram. I love helping people to shift perspectives, mind, body, and spirit. I do body work. I do intuitive coaching. You can find the Power Affirmation Journal and the inspiration cards to help you get into a good relationship with your thoughts.
Yay. I am at lifestudent.com. And if you're going to Burning Man this year, I am going to go, and I will be camping with Burners Without Borders. So hope to see you there or find you online, lifestudent.com.
Amazing.
So I am continuing to plug away with my nutritional supplement company called NuWorld Nutritionals, spelled NuWorld Nutritionals, and about to launch a new product line of gummies.
Oh.
are actually pretty tasty. And it'll also be online available by the end of within the next month. So NuWorldNutritionals.com. Use the code SPARK for 10% off of all of our products.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you. Yum, yum, yum. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's close it out with an affirmation that is inspired by this conversation. So we can just close our eyes if that feels good to you. Take a deep breath. I take responsibility for the way I think about myself and the world around me. I take responsibility for the way I think about myself and the world around me. I take personal responsibility for the way that I think about myself and about the world around me. I take personal responsibility for the way I speak about myself and about others. I take personal responsibility for the way I choose to speak about myself and others. I think and speak with kindness. 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 Let's all keep thinking and speaking with kindness, because kindness will truly make the world a better place. It is such a gift that we can give to ourselves and to our families and communities. So stay sparked, people. Thank you so much for your love and your kindness.
And your support. Stay sparked.
Find us on Instagram at Stay Sparked and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks so much for helping us spread these sparks.